Welcome to Histrology, where history meets royalty.
Florence, the city that glitters under the Renaissance sun, every corner drenched in beauty, every stone humming with the voices of geniuses who once touched them. Michelangelo, Botticelli, Leonardo da Vinci. But behind this breathtaking bloom of culture stood a dynasty whose power was darker than the shadows cast by their own palaces. The Medici. Their public face was dazzling, patrons of art, lovers of beauty, protectors of genius. But their private world? A labyrinth of political games, poison, secret rooms, coded paintings, missing apprentices, forbidden rituals, and artistic commissions that no museum on earth dares to display. Today, Mayo, we walk through that forbidden door. The opening of the vault in the heart of Florence stands the Palazzo Medici Riccardi, its walls thick, its secrets thicker. After the fall of the Medici and centuries of political turmoil, a room deep inside the palace remained locked. No official inventory listed it. No historian could agree on why it was sealed. But one document survived, a 1593 household record stating, "A paintings unsuitable for Christian eyes were transferred to the lower vault." What did they mean by unsuitable? Artwork damaged? Artwork immoral? No, artwork dangerous. Because the Medici were not just collectors, they were architects of hidden messages. Paintings commissioned by them did not merely decorate walls. They preserved secrets, warnings, curses, and orders that only insiders could read. In this vault, the darkest artwork of the Renaissance slept. The first secret, the Room of Faces, the first chamber, revealed a bizarre Medici tradition. Walls lined with portraits, but not royal faces. Unknown faces, common faces. Some distorted, some half-finished, some frozen in violent expressions. These were death portraits, not symbolic, literal, Before executions, political rivals, traitors, and spies were sometimes taken secretly to Medici court artists. Their terror-filled expressions were painted as they awaited their fate. This was not art, this was documentation of dominance, a threat immortalized in oil. For centuries, people praised the Medici for sponsoring beauty, but they also sponsored fear. And they weaponized art more efficiently than any sword. One portrait stood out, a young woman with tangled hair, her eyes wide as if frozen mid-scream, the signature at the bottom, L. Buonarroti, a relative of Michelangelo. Was this an early exercise? A job forced by Medici orders? The brushwork was shaky, hesitant, as if painted by someone who didn't want to witness the scene. The Medici turned artists into unwilling archivists of cruelty. The second secret, the painting that was never shown. Cosimo I de' Medici commissioned dozens of paintings publicly, but there was one private work so secret that even the artist's apprentices weren't allowed to see it. It was known only as The Night Banquet. For centuries, scholars assumed it was lost. In the vault, it was found, rolled, wrapped in silk, hidden under layers of dust thick as carpet. When unrolled, the painting revealed a lavish midnight feast inside Palazzo Vecchio. But every Medici member in the painting stared directly at one person. A man sitting alone at the table's end. A man with no face. Where the face should have been, the canvas was scraped raw. But under UV light, faint sketches appeared. The original face had been removed. Who was he? A counselor? A political advisor? A traitor? Records hinted a man named Raffaello de' Rossi, accused of betraying Cosimo. Rumors say Cosimo didn't just execute him. He erased him from art, from memory, from Renaissance history itself. The faceless banquet became a Medici tradition. A visual reminder that those who betray us will be eaten by time. Niente. Art is psychological warfare. The third secret. Botticelli's forbidden commission. Botticelli is loved worldwide for the birth of Venus and Primavera, masterpieces of innocence, grace, and divine beauty. But there was another painting, One he privately begged to destroy, but the Medici forbade it. In the vault, its fragments were found. Not graceful, not innocent, not divine. The painting depicted a ritual. Masked figures gathered around a circular stone, their cloaks embroidered with Medici emblems. Venus did not rise from the sea. She rose from a ring of fire. Her expression was not serene. It was tormented. Scholars now believe the painting illustrated a secret Medici initiation ceremony for political loyalty, a blend of symbolism, ancient Roman mystery cults, and psychological conditioning. Botticelli hated the commission. Letters reveal he tried to flee Florence after completing it. The Medici persuaded him to stay. The painting was hidden immediately. Never meant for the world, only for the Medici inner circle. The fourth secret, the artist who vanished in 1492. A young sculptor named Giovanni del Moro was hired by Lorenzo de Medici. He produced a marble bust so lifelike it shocked even Florence's artistic elite. The Medici demanded another sculpture. This time, Giovanni refused. Why? Because the request was monstrous. The Medici wanted him to sculpt the perfect criminal, combining features of every executed traitor, creating a hybrid face that embodied a treason itself, a grotesque symbolic statue to warn future conspirators. Giovanni disappeared. The Medici claimed he traveled to Rome, but his workshop remained untouched, his tools still warm. His last unfinished slab showed the beginning of a face, twisted, unnatural, wrong. Not a real man's face, but a composite monster. That fragment lay in the vault. A message carved faintly on the back. No art should be born of fear. His final rebellion. The fifth secret. The Catherine de Medici's Black Book. Catherine de Medici, Queen of France, daughter of the powerful dynasty, was infamous for her interest in astrology, alchemy, and forbidden knowledge. In the vault was her private sketchbook. Not political sketches, not architectural drawings, but drawings of experiments. Faces drawn beside herbs, human silhouettes marked with symbols, mechanical devices resembling torture instruments, but labeled not as weapons, but as tools of influence. Among the pages was a chilling quote written in her elegant script. Art shapes the mind shapes the will shapes the world. For Catherine, art was not beauty, art was control. The sixth secret. The code of the Medici artists. Every Medici painter, sculptor, or architect signed a private agreement, not preserved in any official archive, but found folded inside a chest. The code forbade artists from speaking about commissions irrelated to Medici inner affairs. It also demanded they include hidden symbols in their works, secret emblems visible only to those who knew where to look. A twist in a ribbon, a rose petal slightly misplaced, a shadow shaped like a dagger. Florence's beauty was coded with warnings. Even Michelangelo's early work shows Medici symbolism, not by inspiration, but by instruction. The seventh secret, the painting that moves as a vault's deepest chamber, held a painting so unsettling that guards avoided entering the room. A family portrait. Cosimo, Lorenzo, Catherine, Giuliano, all posed elegantly, but their eyes followed you. Step left, they watched. Step right, they watched. Stand still. Their gaze narrowed. Scientific study later revealed the trick. A brilliant use of layered glazing and curved perspective lines. But the effect was intentional and terrifying. The Medici placed it near the entrance of their palace. Visitors would walk by, feeling constantly observed. The message? We see everything. The eighth secret, the lost mural of power. The final secret is the darkest. Hidden behind a false wall was a mural, 20 feet long, showing the Medici as mythological gods, but not benevolent gods. War gods. Gods of storms. Gods devouring smaller, weaker figures. A chilling scene dominated the center. A Medici ruler standing over Florence itself, holding strings like a puppeteer. Every citizen below moved according to his hand. The mural was never meant for public eyes. It was psychological nourishment, a private affirmation of absolute rule. The artists were sworn to secrecy. One tried to flee. He died as suddenly a week later. Florence's streets glimmered with light, but the Medici world existed under that light, beneath it, behind it. Where painters whispered, apprentices vanished, and beauty was forged with fear. Part 2 enters the circle of artists whom history praised, but the Medici owned. The public knows their masterpieces, but not the jobs they were forced to paint when doors closed. The secret network of Medici art makers by the mid-1500s, the Medici did something unprecedented. They created Europe's first covert artistic intelligence network. Not spies with daggers, spies with sketchbooks. Why? Because an artist could enter places soldiers could not. An artist could observe without suspicion, sketch without raising alarms. Letters found in the vault prove the existence of La Società dell'Occhio, the Society of the Eye, a secret Medici-funded organization of artists trained to draw secret maps, sketch faces of suspected traitors, hide symbols inside paintings, design artworks that influenced public opinion, spy on Santo. Rival courts through artist visits create coded messages within frescoes. These artists were both creators and weapons. The Renaissance was not only a birth of beauty, it was the birth of psychological warfare. The painter who recorded crimes, Vasari's shadow book Giorgio Vasari, architect of the Uffizi and biographer of Renaissance artists, was trusted like no other. But hidden in the vault was a manuscript he never published. Il libro nascosto, the hidden book inside, were sketches unlike anything in his public works. Men strangled women, poisoned bodies dumped in the Arno, secret executions at dusk faces of victims. Labeled with initials, each drawing had a date. Each date matched a known political disappearance. Vasari wasn't documenting art history. He was documenting the Medici's enemies. And his reward? Florence itself. He redesigned the city according to Medici wishes, carving their power into stone. But one page was torn out violently. Only a corner remained. A name scribbled. A Francesco de Pazzi. The Pazzi conspirator executed after attempting to assassinate Lorenzo. Why was his page ripped out? What had Vasari drawn that even the Medici wanted erased? Scholars suspect it depicted not the execution, but the torture before it. A scene too dark even for the Medici legacy. The sculptor who shaped fear in a side chamber laid tools, chisels, mallets, polishing stones, but these were not ordinary tools. Each was engraved with a symbol, a dagger, an eye, a serpent, belonging to Maestro Corrado del Vin, a sculptor whose public works are soft and elegant, but whose private Medici commissions were grotesque psychological devices. He sculpted fear idols. What were fear idols? Small statues placed secretly around Florence, in the courtyards of suspected traitors, near homes of unpaid debtors, inside churches controlled by rival families, under bridges used by political dissidents. These statues looked ordinary at first glance, but at night, their shadows transformed into horrifying shapes, a trick using multiple angled surfaces in moonlight reflection. Medici symbolism disguised as supernatural omens. When citizens awoke and saw those shadows on their walls, they believed they were cursed. Some left Florence immediately, some submitted, some went mad. Fear achieved what force could not. The missing apprentices, the Medici's artistic offerings in the darkest vault boxes contained small worn ledgers, not financial, not political. Attendance books from Medici art workshops. One disturbing pattern appeared everywhere. Apprentices' names suddenly struck out in red ink, dozens of them. Beside each name was a chilling note. "I non greve pio necessario," no longer needed. "I portato giù," taken below "silenzio per monte." Munded silence. Where did they go? According to a handwritten confession found in a different chamber, an elderly painter admitted, some apprentices were taken for the secret body casts. Body casts? Why? The Medici commissioned realistic wax figures for medical studies, but some commissions required exact replicas of corpses. To achieve anatomical accuracy, the artist needed a real human form. Apprentices who knew too much became part of these secret sculptures, their faces frozen forever in wax, then hidden. The Medici weren't preserving art. They were preserving silence. The alchemist painter, Bronzino's true obsession, Agnolo Bronzino, is famous for cool, elegant portraits of nobility, smooth, beautiful, and controlled. But he had a secret life. Bronzino was an alchemist. He experimented with pigments infused with mercury, arsenic, powdered bones, venom, rare fungi, and even ground butterflies used in occult rituals. His private Medici commissions glowed unnaturally, colors shifting under candlelight like living organisms. One painting in the vault showed an unnerving effect, a portrait of Duke Cosimo I that appeared younger each time it was cleaned. Conservators discovered why. Bronzino mixed a self-polishing chemical compound that dissolved micro-layers of paint, revealing brighter layers beneath. A symbolic defiance of aging, a synthetic immortality. Cosimo loved it, because he feared death more than war. Bronzino's darker experiment, however, was far more disturbing. He attempted to paint with human blood. Letters prove he collected special samples provided by Medici guards. The painting has never been found. Rumor says the canvas was destroyed after it began to change color in storage. The Medici's Theater of Horrors, one of the strangest Medici traditions, involved artistic performances, private shows called El Maschere del Silenzio. The Masks of Silence, an exclusive event performed once per year for high-ranking Medici allies inside a candlelit hall with no windows. Actors wore masks representing Medici virtues, loyalty, strength, beauty, intellect, but the villain masks were modeled after real political enemies. The ritual ended with the masks being burned dramatically, symbolizing the annihilation of rivals. But the actors were not volunteers. They were political prisoners forced to reenact their own downfall. And Medici-controlled artists sculpted the masks, ensuring every traitor's face lived on in clay long after death. One mask in the vault bore a label, E. Savonarola. The Dominican friar executed in 1498. The mask's expression was twisted in agony, matching eyewitness descriptions of his final moments. The Medici turned their political nightmare into theater, into art, into entertainment. The studio, with no windows hidden behind a rotating bookcase in Palazzo Pitti, was a room sealed for over 400 years. Inside, untouched, a wooden chair, a table, pigments, brushes, a small oil lamp, a diary. The diary belonged to Matteo Bellini, a painter imprisoned for attempting to flee Florence after refusing a Medici commission. The final entries were chilling. The door opened only to deliver food and take away paintings. They want a portrait of death. They want an image that kills a man's reputation forever. The commission was to paint a rival nobleman accused of treason in the most monstrous way possible, to destroy his public image permanently. Matteo resisted. But his final entry read, "They brought my son. I will paint for them." He completed the portrait. The nobleman's career collapsed within days. Matteo vanished shortly after. But the portrait was found in the vault, a horrifying image that made the viewer's stomach twist, using distorted proportions and an unnatural gaze meant to repulse. Reputation assassination by art. The portrait that prophesied death several Medici rulers suffered sudden or mysterious deaths, assassinations, poisonings, or unknown illnesses. But there was another pattern historians discovered from the vault, a private tradition known as Il Ritratto Finale, the final portrait before every Medici heir assumed full power. They had a portrait made, but not a normal portrait, a prediction portrait. Painted by a Medici selected artist known simply as Il Vegant, the seer. The seer's identity remains unknown, but his works were eerie. He painted rulers with shadows shaped like weapons. He added faint skull silhouettes inside reflections. He painted fine cracks around the heart area of doomed rulers. He painted snakes near those later found poisoned. Over 10 final portraits were found in the vault. Each one chillingly predicted the future ruler's death. Historians believe these portraits weren't prophetic. They were warnings passed to the family's inner circle, coded messages showing who was at risk, who had enemies, and who needed protection, say. But when one portrait predicted the assassination of a Medici ruler by a family member, the seer vanished from all records. The Medici couldn't allow a painter who saw too clearly to live. The art of spirit capture, the most forbidden secret Medici obsession with power, reached a spiritual extreme. Documents show that they believed certain painters could capture a man's essence, his spirit, his luck, his strength, inside a portrait. To protect themselves, they forced artists to paint rivals with broken symmetry, paint enemies with dull eyes, paint themselves with perfect symmetry and bright irises, distort the faces of political threats, subtly embed dominant Medici symbols behind their own figures. They believed this tilted its destiny in their favor. One terrifying experiment revealed the darkest ritual. The Medici attempted to trap a dying man's soul inside his death portrait. The painter was locked with the man for 3 days, instructed to capture his exact final moment. The canvas found in the vault shows a face stretched unnaturally wide as if screaming silently, its eyes following the viewer unnervingly. The painter's note read only, "His breath is still in the paint." Florence de' Maggi, brilliancy shahada, maga medici, ki and arejos main joad, create hoti thigh, wo brilliancy zadid dominance, psychology, or control kaiser thigh. Part 3, on workshops or experiments, ka such kulta hai jahan art surf art, nahi thai, wo ek weapon, ek warning, or kabi ek curse ben jatatha. Medici ki hidden workshops, main paint or marble ki soth, kauf by shape hotatha. The vault of the 7 doors Medici palace ki niche ek or chamber the public vault si by jera. Ye chamber surf ek nom si jana jatatha. Illicet porti. The 7 doors ha darwaza ek lag, kisum kai forbidden art raktatha. Art or ki upai symbol, eka symbol, eka the, iki, e flame, ek skull, ek serpent, ek crown, or iki mirror. Tisa part concepts dark, hisse yahin si shuro hota high. Medici ki apnagods by and doors giyo as pas nahi jape. Door 1. The eye room surveillance. Before the invention of surveillance is room main cheese these serve portraits, as are on portraits. But not of nobles, not of rulers. These were portraits of citizens, bakers, merchants, scholars, even children. Sketches, charcoal drawings, quick oil studies. Ye artists secretly bane the J's high coin Medici ki palace, ki pas orte, ya coin Medici official co attend carta. How face ki neat e ki remark hota, a neutral, a watch, a potential ally, a danger, a silent observer, a may oppose taxation, a fanat. Ye Renaissance ka early facial profiling system thay. Art used as intelligence. Portraits co-analyze kan ki he, psychologists nahi thay. Mago Medici ki pas of face readers. The artist trained to read micro-expressions and interpret political threat level. Spine-chilling detail. Kofi sketches wo logon ki by thay jo Medici ki kilof bolni ki irada rak thay. And patan hon kabi publicly opposition kai. That means the Medici had spies even in thoughts. Portraits were the evidence. Door 2. The key room art used to unlock secrets. Yai rooming jeet system reveal kartada. Paintings key peach hidden compartments. Frames key under, chauti fout, maps. Sculptures me hollow areas. Yani art was used as lockboxes. Cosimo key time pa Medici ni artists co secret documents hide. Con, Daya. Bank ledgers, assassination orders, blackmail letters, maps of escape routes, lists of dangerous families, poisoning formulas, foreign alliances, sculpture on ekline. Jeski donkey peach, folded vellum, they 400 sol piranis, gives me sikitsamu. 9 names, they dinha dissolver of peas, declare kuya gayapta. Unki as a b by exist cartain, or as as ki upa likata. Either lineage must be watched for all generations. Medici ka paranoia, immortal tha. Door 3. The flame room, the room of burning art sobs, disturbing room. Yahan woe paintings rake jathe jinha, destroy karnatha. Mogar completely nahi, raji si kabi destruction si kush nahi hote they. They needed control even over destruction. Is room main incomplete? Burned, melted, half-destroyed pieces, piles of rubble kaitara pedethe. Portraits with faces burned, but bodies intact, sculptures with heads shattered, books with first pages missing, fresco pieces, smelling of smoke, maga sobs, horrifying cheese, large canvas thacho, 60%. Burned tha. Job UV light, see examine Kia Gaia. Topatachala color keep painting judicial murder, depict Cardi thigh. Woe scene Jahan Medici political enemies, Koa death by fire sentence detail. They didn't burn the painting because they regretted it. They burned it because it was too revealing. The records show this artwork must be erased but kept. What does that even mean? Medici wanted to destroy the image to the world, but keep the guilt to themselves. Door 4. The skull room, the anatomical experiments, Yi room, Renaissance anatomy, C by Zayada, dark tha. And our 27 chalkboards, they. Hardboard par sketches, human limbs, organs, veins, tendons, Megoyi sketches, medical nahi lagtete. They were sculpting blueprints. Medici key sculptors ka perfect accuracy chahiye thigh, and they used real bodies. Is room key corner me, key wooden table that gives me grooves key marks though. G's koi body tai chi gai kidio. Milia sculptor kai jo ICZ's room me com karda. You see last pages me likada. They bring me those who vanish. I sculpt them so they do not vanish. The sculptor wasn't creating art. He was recording political executions by sculpting the victims' forms. Door 5. The serpent room, symbolic poisoning in art, Medici poison use cart, that this room use cart they. Yisabti untamed. Paintings p by poison lagway they. Literal toxic paint, and Zeno or Dusser alchemist painters, A's pigments banaj they Joe. 3 features rock they. Visually beautiful. Glowing blues and greens, invisible toxicity, mercury, arsenic, powdered minerals, slow transfer effect. Igar koi painting frequently touch care to poison unki bloodstream mijata. Sting mujatai. A peacock with emerald feathers. Gi's a good luck, gifty ki gnome par rival families kodia jata. After months, egg family key teen members mar gay unknown fever C. Modern tests prove kata high key pigments were laced with arsenic trioxide. Yi the Medici's deadliest art. Paintings that killed. Door 6. The crown room, the art of manufacturing power. Yi room, political propaganda. Ka factory the. Walls pie enormous canvases. Medici she shown as Roman gods' rivals, shown as weak peasants Florence, shown kneeling at their feet. Angels pointing toward Medici as mythological beasts, obeying Medici rulers, symbolic storms, destroying rebellious families in portraits. Medici women co-divine beauty, dijati. Though men kumpan co-Hercules like muscles, even children co-Roman emperors Jessa aura. Scroll me instructions my. History became a canvas, or Medici, USC painters. Door 7. The mirror room, the room that broke artist Saab's terrifying room. Room key beach, a key giant mirror thou. Megar not a normal mirror. This mirror was made with a technique lost for 500 years, reflecting exaggerated imperfections. Agar koi artist diasisi somni kata hota. To unka reflection distorted, bloated, crooked dicta. Medici rulers artists koas mirror ki somni kata ka ki unsikate thay. You are nothing. We give you beauty, psychological breaking. For unhi force kiajata. To paint their best work under stress, under fear, under humiliation, legend, Kata high. Ik painter is mirror code deck pegel hiugea. As ni last line like. The mirror does not distortion. The most forbidden artifact. It painting that never should have been made the deepest corner me iki painting cloth covered thigh. Jab cloth utarage, the canvas revealed. A Medici ruler crowned like a god. Or sti niche iki, burning city, Florence itself. Nambai dominio assoluto, absolute dominion painting band thigh because it showed Medici ambition too clearly, not rule, not leadership, but total submission of Florence, is painting ki niche isu line likai thigh. When art becomes truth, truth will become ours. Medici believed iti din wo painting prophetic hoagie. For centuries, Florence slept peacefully above thousands of Medici secrets buried beneath its stones. Tourists, scholars, and locals wandered its streets unaware that the city's greatest treasures and its greatest horrors remained sealed away. But history has a habit of resurfacing when the world is not ready, and the darkest Medici masterpieces were never meant to be awakened. What happens when forbidden art begins to breathe again? What happens when the shadows move? This is the chapter where beauty becomes terrifying, and the past refuses to stay buried. The discovery of the century. A hidden room in the Uffizi in 2007, during routine restoration inside the Uffizi Gallery. A team of architects noticed something strange. A narrow wall behind a Renaissance fresco sounded hollow when tapped. At first, they assumed it was old plaster. But thermal scans showed a void, perfectly rectangular, sealed for centuries. When restoration experts drilled a tiny hole and inserted a micro camera, the first thing they saw was a Medici crest, not the public one. The secret one, engraved only on confidential documents and vaults used for forbidden art. This room shouldn't have existed. There were no architectural records, no mentions, nothing. After hours of deliberation, the team broke open the wall. Inside, they found a sealed chamber filled with dust, cold air, and something far more chilling. A large wooden crate stamped with the initials L.M. Lorenzo il Magnifico. The crate contained documents and objects wrapped in dark cloths. Each object was tagged with a symbol used only in the darkest corner of Medici inventory. These were pieces stored away by choice, hidden because they were dangerous. Among them was a folder labeled Studio dell'Anima, the Soul Study. Inside lay sketches, notes, pigment recipes, and a rough charcoal drawing of a face with unfinished eyes. Eyes that seemed to stare straight through the paper. The artwork Lorenzo had abandoned, the unfinished masterpiece, was real. And the discovery awakened questions the Medici spent centuries burying. The return of the unfinished masterpiece hidden beneath the sketches was a sealed parchment with instructions written by Lorenzo himself. Its final line read, "No light must touch the eyes. They are not yet silent." This warning was ignored. When the crate was transported to a restoration lab, the conservators carefully unwrapped an old rolled canvas. The moment it unfurled, every person in the room reportedly froze. The portrait was incomplete, yet disturbingly alive. The eyes were unfinished, yes, but they held depth, clarity, and a presence impossible for a half-painted face. One restorer swore the canvas exhaled. Another claimed the eyes shifted slightly when she looked away. Security footage from that night shows technicians moving anxiously, as if watched. Within days, 3 restorers refused to continue working on it. One quit the profession entirely. Rumors spread that the canvas emitted faint sounds, like breathing, Florence called it superstition. Experts called it psychological suggestion. But the workers who handled the painting whispered one phrase: "It's awake." The devil's bronze there, found in a private collection, while the Uffizi discovery shook Italy. Another revelation surfaced thousands of kilometers away. A Swiss art collector contacted Italian authorities, claiming he possessed an unusual bronze sculpture purchased from a private Medici estate sale in the 1930s. Investigators were skeptical until they saw it. It was the bronze statue commissioned by Cosimo centuries ago, the one rumored to contain fibers under the cracks. Today, those cracks had widened. Experts observed thin strands resembling tendons. Chemical tests revealed traces of human proteins mixed with the bronze inner layer. An impossibility, unless the material was fused with organic matter. The collector reported hearing metallic creaking during quiet nights, like a body stretching after sleep. The Medici bronze wasn't static. It was changing. The Night of Serpents. Botticelli's curse reawakens around the same time. An auction in Paris presented an unnamed, unsigned tempera painting from a Tuscan private inheritance. When the painting was unveiled, Italian experts gasped. The lines, the brushwork, the shadows, it was Botticelli, but not the Botticelli the world knew. It was the Night of Serpents believed lost forever. The painting's colors were unnaturally preserved. Too preserved. The serpents in the imagery glowed faintly under light. During pre-auction inspection, the painting reportedly caused dizziness, nausea, hallucinations of moving shadows, and a cold sensation on the viewer's skin. The auction house attempted to explain these effects as uneasy effects as old varnish view, but surveillance cameras revealed something horrifying. Under dim light, the serpents in the painting shifted position, not smoothly, not fluidly, just enough to be different between frames, like a creature adjusting itself when no one was watching. The auction was cancelled. The painting was seized. Italy demanded its return. France resisted. Two governments fought over a painting that neither fully understood. A dark pattern emerges. 3 forbidden works resurfacing in the same decade was more than coincidence. Researchers and historians began connecting dots. A Medici vault opened unexpectedly. A collector revealing a sculpture after hiding it for years. A lost Botticelli suddenly appearing, pigments behaving unnaturally, sculptures aging like living flesh canvases, reacting to light and sound. The question arose: were these artworks created using techniques the world still doesn't understand? The Medici were known to fund alchemy, occult sciences, early chemistry, anatomy, and even proto-psychological experiments. What if these artworks weren't ordinary trail? What if they were experiments in transformation? Art that wasn't meant to stay inert? What if the purpose was never aesthetic, but metaphysical? The Libro Oscuro resurfaces. The greatest evidence arrived in 2019 when a rare manuscript surfaced at an antique bookstore in Turin. It was bound in leather, sealed with 3 wax emblems. Inside was the unthinkable. The Libro Oscuro, the dark book, the Medici inventory of forbidden art. It included detailed entries describing pigments mixed with neurotoxic plants, bronzes infused with organic substances, canvases treated with hallucinogenic oils, sculptures cast from anatomically fresh molds, and experimental painting methods involving a soul capture metaphors that sounded eerily literal. The book confirmed one truth. The Medici weren't trying to create beauty. They were trying to create life. Art that reacted. Art that responded. Art that might one day wake up. The final secret. The Medici expected the art to return at the last pages of the Libro Oscuro was a chilling prophecy-like statement written by Ferdinando I. If the doors open, our creations will rise again. For beauty can sleep, but it never dies. The Medici knew. They expected their hidden masterpieces to survive centuries, to resurface, to reclaim their place in history. Not as art, but as warnings, or weapons, experiments awakening in the modern world. The end of the Medici story, or the beginning? Florence now faces a terrifying possibility. What if the Medici's forbidden masterpieces weren't dangerous because of their themes, but because of what they contain? What if the unfinished masterpiece truly holds a fragment of a soul? Ooh, what if the bronze statue contains organic matter that's still changing? What if Botticelli's serpents weren't symbols, but something alive in pigment? What if the paintings were meant to influence or control